Hello, and welcome to Paranormal Critical Thinking. When it comes to today's topic, I really had a hard time figuring out what exactly to call this video. I really didn't want to name it something to do with hoaxes, and I certainly didn't want to trigger YouTube's safety bot with the word danger in the title. So this quandary alone made me spend more time than I should have on trying to figure out what exactly to call this. What I did know was that for quite a while I have been given suggestions for topics that when I looked into them weren't all that they appeared to be. The whole time I kept them on the back burner, just waiting for the moment where I had enough information and similar topics to compile together to create a full video. With our new upload, the day has come and I have around 3 things to talk about where on first glance they may seem fantastic, but then appear different once you pull the curtain back. NASA Truth. We are starting off with a real big one right off the bat. I know with the subtitle of NASA Truth, 2 words that don't belong together, you may think I might have finally lost it. I very may well have, but with this story, it isn't the case. I was linked to an article that shockingly came up with an image taken directly from Google Mars that appears to show an unknown base just sitting near the Gale crater. Come to find out, this article was released in June of 2017, but it recently is making its rounds on social media again. Without going too much into this, the whole thing was said to be an April Fool's prank by Google themselves. Now obviously, I wouldn't just take them for their word, since we have seen many strange images of objects on Mars' surface before. It also is odd that when I looked into it today, the facility is nowhere to be found. Yet, even when I saw the images for the first time, I couldn't help but thinking how they looked an awful lot like computer components. The roads look decent, but at the same time feel like Photoshop was involved. The satellite looks completely cut and pasted, where with some PNG files, or transparent background, you see the odd white ghost outline around the object. Actually, in looking into this, I found that China has a Mars-based mock-up in the desert here on Earth. Why this is important is by looking at this photo, could you tell it wasn't on this planet? Also, even though this article was from early 2017, it is making its rounds again, and I want to provide some clarity if I can. Now don't get me wrong, I fully believe images from NASA are edited to show us what they want us to see. And I also believe that there is something going on Mars. However, I don't think these images prove that. It is interesting that it does prove that they are fully capable and do utilize Photoshop in their images. The real Silent Hill. Recently I was given the suggestion by a viewer to look into the strange occurrence at Lincoln Way, Pennsylvania. When I first started to go over the material, it was really up the alley of this channel, with strange disappearances, haunted houses, and even an odd cryptid. Things then changed, but I'll get into that a bit later. In Clairton, PA, there is a small abandoned town known as Lincoln Way. In these houses you can find many relics of the past owners, including furniture, curtains, dishes, and even some clothes. Many of the images look like the owners simply walked away from everything and left their possessions behind. Very eerily similar to pictures we see of the aftermath of the Chernobyl meltdown. While one house in this state is odd, finding the whole town this way really raises some questions. Stories did emerge that residents left due to the sight of a terrifying cryptid that threatened their lives. It was described as having glowing red eyes, stood on all 4s, was the size of a horse, and was covered in long black fur. It also was said to have razor-sharp teeth and long claws on its feet, and there was more than one of the beasts. However, this wasn't all, as many residents claimed that a spirit was haunting each and every one of their houses. This specter would make scratching and rattling noises all night in everyone's houses, and they even claimed either the ghost or the monster would destroy their gardens. According to legend, all the families finally moved out in terror during the middle of the night for fear of the paranormal events. Wow, that is a truly terrifying story for sure. I am obviously all about cryptids and giving anyone their due when being told about an encounter, but much of this story is false. The whole ghost and beast stories emerged many years later and has been spread around on the internet as an urban legend. A few of the previous residents are still around, as well as their children, and none of them mention the beast with red eyes. But they do all state that the nearby steel mill was filling the air with a pungent, noxious smell. Oddly enough, a few of those who were interviewed did state that they were unexplained incidences, but no description of what that may have meant. Now, you may ask, what about the leaving in the middle of the night and leaving all their possessions? Well, a few did leave, but quite a few stayed and even lived out their lives in their homes. What many assume, including the residents' children, is that many of the people who lived there simply got too old and were moved into nursing homes. Many times when this happens, items stay behind since they won't need them in their new living area. Another theory is that these homes were bought out by the state for the Mon Valley Expressway that was set to be built through the town. This sort of thing happens all the time, and sadly, many residents aren't given the choice to not sell. Many of these deals are done very quickly. The expressway never happened, but this could be due to reports of sinkholes developing in the area as well. Today, many reports claim that the houses have been torn down due to fire and safety concerns. Since it is fairly close to where I live, about an hour and a half, I may check this out myself at one point. Personally, I think what happened in the area was a mix of all the theories, and maybe the monster could have actually been a misidentified black bear. This case isn't as open and shut though, since questions still remain as to what residents meant by unexplained incidences, and what about the hauntings, which some have claimed to have caught on camera while exploring the abandoned location. If the town is truly destroyed to the ground, these answers may never be solved. Dangerous folklore. Our last topic was suggested by quite a few viewers, all of them wanting me to look into the being known as the Waya woman. According to what I could find, this being is said to be found in Jackson County, West Virginia. The name Waya itself is Cherokee for wolf, so the being is known as the Wolf Woman. This certainly fits with the lore, since the being is said to look like a mix between a woman and a wolf, walks on its hind legs, and is said to stand at an impressive 7 feet tall. To make this story more interesting, this isn't just a normal wolf woman, and she is said to be the queen of blood wolves. Not much is known outside of this, other than apparently this being has a penchant for blood and is known to create effigy-type altars as a warning to the unwary and to mark her territory. Now, this kind of story is my kind of topic, and I really have a love for old folklore. I took a lot of time and really looked into every avenue of this story, and to say I was disappointed is an understatement. Starting off, all mentions to this being come full circle to the Travel Channel show Mountain Monsters. Now, I understand the show is pretty much a comedy series, and my family have enjoyed watching many an episode. I have always applauded them for trying to get their facts straight on whatever creature they are planning to capture in each episode. The show may be fake, but the stories and lore were nearly always spot on. That was until it appeared they created this being for the sake of views. I found article after article of natives in the area, both young and old, all saying that they had never heard of this legend before the show. This is always troubling, but it doesn't rule out the legend completely. I see this all the time with my Cryptid by State series, where I mention the cryptid and then have quite a few comments from people living in the area who say they never heard about them. As usual, I took it a step further and dug to try to find that one nugget of information that could validate this entry. After finding that Waya is of Cherokee origin, I then set out to study wolf women lore and then just wolf people lore. The result was the same thing. Nothing. There are stories about corn women, bird women, deer women, and even sea women, but no mention of a wolf woman. Now there is legends, even in the Cherokee Nation, about a being known as the Woman of the Woods. This woman, also known as the Raven Mocker, will literally steal and consume the hearts of the sick and dying without leaving a mark on the body. This being can transform into pretty much any shape or animal she wants, including that of a wolf. So maybe the writers of the show got their inspiration from that. Now, in order to be complete, I looked into the Queen of the Blood Wolf part. Again, I couldn't find anything relating to that other than references to mountain monsters and oddly enough in video games such as The Elder Scrolls and Black Desert. From what I saw, the blood wolf doesn't exist either, unless you were to include a certain form of werewolf, where its blood is used to create more of the species. Even as such, I followed that branch, but it still didn't link back to any Native American origin. Now there are stories about wolf blood curing blindness, and in other instances causing curses, much like some Norse mythology tales. But an actual blood wolf? No. I do like to keep my research as tight as possible, but even I didn't look into the effigy making part, since that felt too Blair Witch-esque. I could be wrong in thinking this, but with every other part of this story not being about a real legend, I didn't see the need to try to prove that part. Here's what I think happened. The show needed a new creature to add to their developing lore of the little Cherokee girl, the Coyote King, Death Cat, and a mysterious dark forest. Seeing a pattern here? Then they turned to the sadly common practice of adding Native American lore to the newly created being to add an air of authenticity. With this, they did tie in a real Cherokee being of legend known as Spearfinger. I may talk about that one in a future video. Now, as always, I could be completely off the mark, and I don't claim to be the final word on this topic, but other than actually reaching out to someone from the Cherokee tribe, I looked into every reference available to me about the truth of the Waya woman. I certainly welcome knowing more about this if I did somehow miss information about her being real. So in ending this video, I am curious if you have heard of any of these stories, and more importantly, were you aware of the truth behind them? I do have to mention that every time I make a video like this, I frequently see comments of viewers thinking I don't believe in the paranormal. Obviously, many of you know this isn't the case, but for posterity, I do believe in the paranormal, aliens, and some cryptids. Now, as I've been promising in my past few videos, here is the return to 3 comments I liked from last week's video. The first one comes from Finn Phantom, who says, "Would you mind making a video about all your paranormal UFO cryptid experiences that you have had? You talked about them briefly in other videos, but I'd love to hear about them all." Thank you for your comment, Finn Phantom. I see requests like this quite often, and it always puts me in a bit of a bind. The reason is that over the years, I have made videos dedicated to my experiences under the moniker of Personal Paranormal. I actually believe I have a playlist set up for those videos. Now, why this is an issue for me is that I personally feel I want to make those videos in my current format, but due to many comments saying that they don't want remakes, I'm stuck. If I was to revisit those topics, I possibly would have to compile all those videos into bite-sized samples. However, I completely understand I have a lot of new viewers, and with a catalog of almost 300 videos to go through, it can be quite a daunting task. I will certainly see what I can do, since you aren't the only one who has expressed an interest in this topic. Our second comment is from Mama Boo C. I was just watching Mad Cat Mysteries and his YouTube recommendations mentioned your channel. Totally forgot I was subbed to your channel. Great channel. It's like opening Christmas presents when I get to go back and see all the many videos I missed. Thank you so much, Mama Boo C. Earlier this year, I did go through a period where I didn't upload anything for a couple months due to a crazy work schedule. So, at least there aren't as many videos you missed as there could have been, depending on how long it's been since you last watched my content. Anyway, welcome back, and I'm really happy that you enjoy my content as much as you do. For the other part of your comment, I found it pretty funny. This is mainly due to me being friends with Drew from Mad Cat Mysteries for quite a few years. Granted, we have never met in person, but even when my channel was under 10,000 subscribers, Drew and I were working on videos together. The whole UFO Week series I made was based on a collaboration with him. Finally, the last one comes from a longtime viewer by the name of Cryptozoologist Investigator. I hope you cover my strange forest encounter soon, because with YouTube's new terms of service coming on December 1st, I may end up abandoning ship on my channel. Thank you, Brock. I had already mentioned in a reply that I forgot what your encounter was, but since then I did receive the email from you. I will be looking into it here shortly. At least now I have it in a location where it's almost impossible for me to lose. Your comment here is an important one, and I do fully intend on making a separate video about what the changes that are being made on YouTube come December 10th mean to my channel. I don't want to get into the specifics here, but suffice it to say, a lot of channels are going to be affected by the new terms of service. While at first glance my channel should be safe, I do have a few concerns, and as of such, I will be discussing it in another video later this week. I am sad to hear in a follow-up comment to this one that you officially deleted your channel. I do wish you the best in your future endeavors. If you haven't yet done so, do please consider subscribing to my channel for more content like this, and I'll also greatly appreciate it if you could share my videos with someone you know who may be interested in this type of genre. With that, be safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.